I'm here to give you 3 reasons why I upgraded to the Canon EOS R within 2024, and this is a photographer's perspective. If you guys are new to this channel, my name is Kofi. I'm also known as Cam Kodak, though this is a channel where we usually talk about photography, camera gear, and so much more. I am a photographer. I love to take photos, and for the longest time, I've been wanting to get a mirrorless camera, but I was really stuck within the world of DSLRs. I loved DSLRs. I actually started with a Nikon DSLR camera that was my dad's, and then I switched over to get my own camera around 2019, 2020, and that camera that I got was the Canon 70D. I actually still have that camera that's right over here. And this camera was my workhorse. I loved the ergonomics. I loved how it just took beautiful photos. And the reason why I even got this camera was because I needed something that would not break the bank, but it was also an easy entry into photography, especially when I paired it with the Canon 50mm f1.8. I love this camera. It took all my photos from 2020 to 2023 until the actual shutter decided to break. And the problem with that is if I wanted to get it fixed, it would cost the same amount of what I bought this camera for. So I decided, no, it's not worth it. I'm just gonna go ahead and keep this camera as my first camera, even though the shutter is broken. So the next camera that I picked up was actually the Canon 80D. I don't know if you guys saw my previous video about how I bought this. I think it was an 8-year-old camera, or yeah, it was just a great video in my opinion. And it was a little bit clickbaity, but at the end of the day, it was just something that I wanted to create. And I felt like a lot of people liked that video of why I even picked up the Canon 80D. And I went basically into this whole backstory of why I even did so. But the problem that I faced with the Canon 80D is that while it did basically replace the Canon 70D at that time when the shutter was broken, it still had a lot of the drawbacks from the Canon 70D. And the main thing is the fact that it was a crop sensor. While I was praising the fact that, hey, if you're starting off within photography, crop sensor is not bad, which that's still definitely true to this day. But now that I have, I guess you could say, went from like intermediate to like professional, but we don't really know what professional really means. But now that I'm taking more and more photos of certain harsh situations, I'm starting to notice the drawbacks or the limitations of the Canon 70D, the Canon 80D, and just having that crop sensor DSLR camera. So that actually leads to my first reason why I picked up the Canon EOS R, and that is the fact that my previous camera was actually holding me back within photography. And that one main thing was going to be the ISO performance. I was finding myself taking my Canon DSLR, the crop sensor Canon 80Ds, to very dark environments or low light environments. And because of that, obviously you have to bring up your ISO. But when you bring up your ISO, your grain starts to show even more. So I was pushing my ISO to about 400, or no, not 400, sorry, 4,000, 6,400. And while those photos definitely looked bright on my LCD screen, as soon as I uploaded to the computer, the image would not look the greatest. And while I could send those photos to a client or a friend who wanted those photos, yeah, to them, the photo looks great. But from a photographer's perspective, and being able to zoom in and have that eye to see that grain, those photos did not look great. And I knew that very soon I'm going to be taking more photos, let's say within an auditorium, or very soon I'm going to be wanting to take photos of, let's say, the Milky Way. And I just don't want a camera that does not perform well, high ISO, low light scenarios. I just need a camera that's going to be able to take those types of photos, and I'll be able to, let's say, blow it up or even print it off as well. Now, my second reason why I picked up the Canon EOS R is that I needed something light yet powerful. The reason why I needed something light yet powerful is because these Canon DSLRs, they can get heavy. And what I really appreciate about Canon is that when they make a camera, they are truly built like a tank. Not only the Canon 70D, but also the Canon 80D as well. And luckily, I was actually able to test out the Canon 5D Mark IV. And I will have to say, before I even picked up the Canon EOS R, I was debating between the Canon 5D Mark IV and the Canon EOS R. It was basically that pinnacle point between me choosing a DSLR camera again or a mirrorless camera again. And I've heard it all throughout the internet that, hey, mirrorless is the way to go. It's lighter, it's faster, but I was like, you know what? I still love my DSLRs. I'm still a sucker for DSLR cameras. So that's why I was like, let me go and test out the 5D Mark IV. I definitely had that opportunity. I went out, tested it out within an auditorium setting. And if you guys don't know anything about shooting photos within an auditorium, you know that the lighting there is usually not the best. So you definitely have to bring your ISO up so they will be able to have very clear and clean photos. So definitely was able to take the 5D Mark IV, bring my ISO up, and I was able to achieve those photos, which I was very happy about. But one thing I noticed while having the 5D Mark IV around my neck with the camera strap is that that camera is heavy. And I was thinking, man, if I'm really going to be carrying this camera for 1 to 2 hours, I don't want it to be placing stress around my neck that much. And while my Canon 70Ds and 80Ds, those cameras were heavy, it wasn't as heavy as the 5D Mark IV. So it was a big no for me. And of course, before picking up this camera, I did a bunch of research. I actually had a pros and con list that I've made just to compare those two cameras before I actually made the final decision to buy it. And what that led me ultimately was to buy the Canon EOS R. And the third reason why I picked up the Canon EOS R is because last month was my birthday and I wanted and needed a camera. Simple as that. Now, obviously, like I said before, I did lots of research before picking this camera up, but I'm actually glad I went with the Canon EOS R. Not only is this my first mirrorless camera, it's also my first full frame camera that I've owned. And since it's still on the RF system, I can still use the newer lenses and still adapt my older lenses. But when I bought this camera, it actually does not come like this. I actually got extra accessories for this camera. And the first accessory that I got was actually the converter for the Canon EF to RF adapter. This allows me to adapt my older EF lenses that are located right behind me, such as the Canon 85mm f1.8, the Sigma 18-35 1.8, and also the Canon 70-200 2.8. Now this 70-200 is actually the Mark I version, and I noticed that on YouTube, a lot of people don't talk about this lens. They always talk about the Mark II or the Mark III, and it really baffled me, but I was like, you know what, maybe soon I should make a video about it. But hey, haven't gotten there yet, but soon. Soon I'll make a video talking about the Canon 70-200 f2.8. But going back to the accessories, I definitely picked up the Canon EF to RF adapter, and I made sure to get the one that comes with the control ring. And I will admit, it makes a very satisfying click. I love it. I actually set this to my camera for aperture, though I do sometimes switch it for ISO. And yeah, I love this adapter. It works seamlessly with all of my EF glass. Now, the second accessory that I got with the Canon EOS R was the BGE22, or people just call it the battery grip. And yeah, this thing was amazing. It is amazing, still is amazing. And I gotta give a shout out to my girlfriend Serena. She got this for me for my birthday because I was actually looking at it and doing the research on it. So yeah, I can't thank her enough. This attachment just makes your camera a little bit beefier. And I did say before within my second reason that, hey, I wanted something lightweight and powerful. And even with this battery grip, the camera still feels lightweight. As a matter of fact, this is actually how the camera looks. You know, it's a little bit smaller and all that jazz, but once you attach the camera grip, kind of makes it bigger, you know? It's not fully screwed in right now, but I like how it feels when it's attached. And this just makes it feel like, I guess you could say like a Canon 1DX Mark II or Mark III. Who knows, maybe even the Canon R3, but I'm not gonna push it that far. But yeah, I can also do, you know, horizontal photos, but I can also go from portrait, and I am mainly a portrait photographer, but I'm starting to see myself taking photos within those harsher situations, low light situations. So yeah, I'm just glad that I was able to get this battery grip. From a photographer's perspective, the Canon EOS R is a beast of a camera. If you're someone like me who is transitioning from a DSLR camera to a mirrorless camera, yeah, look no further. And this camera does not break the bank. I actually got this used from mpb.com, not sponsored, but mpb.com and also keh.com. Great places if you're trying to get some used gear. But yeah, this came pretty much in pristine condition, and I can't thank them enough. Once again, from a photographer's perspective, this camera is a beast. It's a full frame camera, mirrorless camera, has a great electronic viewfinder, which basically displays the image through the viewfinder. So no more optical viewfinder and then looking back at your LCD to check if you have the correct exposure, making sure that everything is locked on and focus. And speaking about autofocus, the dual pixel autofocus on this mirrorless camera is still great. It's actually better than my DSLR cameras that even had the dual pixel autofocus. Just and then great ergonomics as well. And it already had great battery life, but with the battery grip, the battery life is even better. Yeah, from a photographer's perspective, the Canon EOS R is a beast. And I am very excited to push this camera even further with other types of photography in mind. Though, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and please comment down below if you're actually considering the Canon EOS R within 2024, or if you have any other cameras in mind that you feel like picking up within 2024. But apart from that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.